The first point is, I'd like to begin by saying that if Atmanirbhar Bharat is important for all ministries and departments and all sectors, I think it is the most important for our sector. And the reason for this is that power is a strategic sector, it is a sensitive sector. It is power which, enables all our industries to run, including defense industry. It powers all our communications, it powers all our databases. So most developed countries have declared power to be a strategic and sensitive sector. Coupled with that, this is a sector which is also vulnerable to cyber attacks, very vulnerable to cyber attacks because of the large networks. From that point of view also, apart from the point of view of creating jobs here, from the point of view of security, and from the strategic perspective, Atmanirbhar Bharat is absolutely important for us. Now, as far as the conventional power is concerned, we make almost everything here. So actually, there should be very little need for imports, except for some very high niche technology items like HVDC, etc. But the surprising thing is that despite the fact that we have manufacturing capacity in almost all segments of the conventional power sector, in generation, transmission, distribution, despite that, in 1819, the imports were about 71,000 crores. 71,000 crores. Now that is because you have foreign companies, especially China and some other countries like that, which are dumping equipment at very low prices in order to beat the domestic manufacturers. So we need to correct that. Now, this is as far as the conventional sector is concerned. Insofar as renewable energy is concerned, we are perhaps the fastest growing country insofar as renewable energy capacity is concerned. The quantity of renewable energy capacity which we are adding, the rate at which we are adding is perhaps, the maximum in the world. Now we are virtually, we have sufficient manufacturing capacity for solar modules. That despite that large quantity of solar modules, etc., are being, dumped by China, etc. We don't have sufficient capacity for solar cells. Our capacity currently is about half that what we require. But even that half that capacity which is available in India is not being utilized because of dumping. So we put anti-dumping duty, we put safeguard duty a couple of years back on both solar cells and modules. Now we are going to replace it with customs duty. So we have already discussed this with the finance ministry, and hopefully customs duty on solar cells and modules should kick in from the 1st of August. So that will, protect our domestic industry, make sure that dumping does not happen. We are also coming out with an approved list of models and manufacturers. That's a work in progress. When that is ready, then we'll come out with an approved list of models and manufacturers. So that means that we'll only use those that equipment which is listed in that. And most of the equipment which will be listed in that will actually be equipment manufactured in India. But that is a work in progress. We are testing equipment, we are listing the equipment. Once that list is final, then we'll put that in place. Insofar as this is concerned, Atmanirbhar Bharat is concerned, I held a meeting with all the segments of the industry. And I told them that, look, this is the situation. I don't see any reason as to why you are importing things which are made here. So they all pledged that equipment which is made in India, they will not import. And we are also going to put in place customs duty insofar as the conventional sector is concerned. That is what I am going to recommend. And in the conventional sector also, we'll have this list of, the approved list of models and manufacturers. That's the second step which I am taking. The third step which I am taking is that I am passing an order saying that Power is a sensitive sector, it is a strategic sector, it is vulnerable to cyber attacks. There have been attempts earlier, and it's very easy to plant Trojan horses or malware in equipment. So therefore, whatever is made here, we will not import. Whatever is not made here, we'll try and manufacture in the next 2 to 3 years. And whatever we import, in any case, is going to be tested. So you have any and import from prior reference countries will need prior permission. So 3 steps. One is whatever is being made here, we will not import. Anything which is imported, we will test thoroughly. And there will be some countries which are prior reference countries, of which China will be one. And any report from that will require prior permission. And of course, even after we grant permission, that equipment will have to be tested thoroughly for malware.
Taking on the likes of China, if you look at solar modules, we are importing currently 80% of the solar modules and solar cells, which are a critical component of the solar energy generation, from China. Another 15% is coming in from countries such as Malaysia, South Korea, Vietnam, Taiwan, to name a few. I just want to understand from you, do you think Indian companies A can compete, and B, the critical thing here would be the price differential. How competitive can the Indian manufacturers be in the solar space?
It was this price differential, the fact that China and a couple of other, mainly China, was dumping cells and modules at very low prices, artificially lowered prices, because of subsidies being given by that government. Because of that, our people were not, the domestic manufacturers were not able to compete. Now this customs tariff, which we are going to impose, that will make this a level playing field, so that our domestic manufacturers can compete. And so in the first year, the tariff will be for 25% for modules and 15% for cells. In the second year for modules, it goes up to 40%.
Right, absolutely. So I understand the point that you're making. I just want to understand from you, if we move away from the solar generation and talk about thermal energy consumption as well, how is the government looking to incentivize the players so that we are able to reduce our excessive reliance on the imports there?
Now, as far as conventional energy is concerned, that's thermal, mostly, and hydro. As I said, we are making most of our requirements here. The only thing is that some people buy equipment, some developers and are buying equipment from China because China is making that equipment available at very low prices, even though the quality is suspect. So as I said, power is a very sensitive sector. If any of our adversaries wants to cripple us, it can plant malware in our power systems, and at a signal, our entire power system will come crashing down because of that malware and that Trojan horse system. Now, this concern has been there for some time. In 2017, I had set up a committee in the Central Electricity Authority to examine this issue and make recommendations. They have made recommendations. Now, and they have also come to this finding that it's a very sensitive sector. Other countries have already put in place, for example, the United States have already put in place policies which state that in the power system, in the bulk power system, only equipment made in the United States will be utilized because of this cyber security threat. Now, we propose to put a similar system here, that whatever is made here will be used. If you want to import any equipment, that equipment will have to be checked thoroughly for any malware and any Trojan horse. Now, that checking will take time, because we will not allow any equipment unless we are certain that it does not have any malware. And apart from that, there will be, there are countries which are adversarial or which are potential adversaries. Imports from those countries will require prior permission. That is what our thinking is. That's the policy which I seek to put in place.
Absolutely, it's a three-pronged strategy. Buy Indian, look at Indian products, I look at manufacturing them, and if you're getting it from outside, then be ready for inspections as well. Having said that, sir, you've also suggested that REC and PFC give discounted financing options as well to the power sector. I want to understand from you, how viable do you think a step like this will be, and to what extent can demand be pulled from imports in this manner?
So another thing which I mentioned to them, that which I propose to do is in fact this suggestion came from industry, and I think that's a very good suggestion which I'm going to adopt. We will have a differential rate of interest for financing from our institutions. We have the Power Finance Corporation, the REC and IREDA, which are the NBFCs, non-banking finance companies, which are owned by the Government of India and which finance the power sector. Now, funding from these NBFCs to the power sector will be at a differential rate of interest, and where the equipment being put in place is 70, 80, 90% Indian, there the rate of interest will be 1% lower than the rate of interest for financing equipment which has a higher proportion of imported content. So that differential also I am putting in place. There's another policy decision which we have taken, that this Make in India, this localization circular which has been issued by us. Now that Make in India circular will also apply to any project which is financed by our financing companies, PFC, REC and IREDA.
We've spoken about quite a bit in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat, but where from here in terms of now we are seeing the lockdown being lifted in a significant way. I want to understand from you, how do you see the trend stabilizing in terms of power demand, because till mid-June the numbers were still not looking that heartening. There is still a contraction of as much as 14% in terms of power demand. How soon do you foresee some sort of a revival happening in terms of power demand, and how do you see that shaping up?
Now, day before yesterday, the power demand was about 15,000 megawatts, and on the corresponding day last year, it was 1,75,800 odd megawatts. So the difference is about 15,000 megawatts from the corresponding day last year. Now, the industry is just starting to get into gear. The workers are just starting to come back. Now, I expect gradually in the next maybe 15-20 days to somewhere come close to what it was last year.
Having said that, sir, that's going to be something that we can hope in the upcoming session as well. Is that so?
Upcoming session will be rather tight because after finalizing these amendments, I have to go to the Ministry of Law, and only then can I introduce it in Parliament. So it will be rather tight, but I'll try for that. That's what I'm still trying for.
This is going to be my last question. I want to understand from you, are the worries on coal availability, the PPA visibility, PPA signing are behind us, and can we really look forward to a more stable regime in terms of these issues?
Now, as far as coal availability is concerned, there is sufficient coal. We have a stock of 48 million tons with our power plants, and there is about 71 million tons stock on the pithead. So coal availability is not an issue. As far as the PPA availability is concerned, we have put in place a provision in the proposed tariff policy which is before the cabinet, in which we are saying that every distribution company will have to show to the regulator every year that it has tied up sufficient power to meet its requirements. So that will take care of the PPA availability, because the distribution companies will have to tie up power to meet the requirements and show that to the regulator. So I expect that the visibility of the PPA will also increase. And another thing which I have put in place in that tariff policy is that no distribution company will be able to do gratuitous load shedding. If you do load shedding without any cogent reason, you are going to get penalized, and the consumers will be credited with that amount of the penalty which will be levied on the discount. That's there in the tariff policy.